Hi, I'd like to welcome Colleen Kochannek, who is the owner of scrappyfrontier.com, helping women over 50 create a simple business of their dreams. Is that correct, Colleen?
That is absolutely right.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So welcome, Colleen. So I wanted to bring Colleen on here today because she is she's got an excellent story around leaving a corporate job and then also starting a business. But when she started her business before, it was more of an overwhelm nightmare. And then she said kind of enough with this and then moved toward simplifying everything. So I think she's got a really, really great story. And I'm so excited to dive in to this awesome conversation with Colleen. So Colleen, I would love to hear more about the background story. So where were you even before you started your business?
Well, first, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. I was just kind of a regular lady. I had a corporate job for 25 plus years in the same industry. I actually had a job I loved and probably would not have left it when I did, but it left me. I got caught in a layoff, which, is very common with people these days. And, I had a choice to go find another job or strike out on my own. And the thought, I don't know, I just hit, I hit that 47, 48 year mark. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not really satisfied anymore working for somebody else and having to answer to somebody else all the time. And my own time wasn't mine. They basically dictate what you can do when. And so I just thought this is the time to strike out on my own. So that's what I did.
Awesome. And so when you striked out on your own and created a business, what did that initial business look like? And how quickly were you able to launch and what was going on for you?
It actually happened. I had this very naive view of what starting a business was going to be. So in my previous life, before I was like corporate, I was a freelance writer, and my background is business, international business. I have an MBA, so it was like business, but I always loved writing. And in my younger days, I used to write for magazines like Better Homes and Gardens magazines. So when I was getting laid off, I thought, well, I will just start an online magazine. How hard can that be? So I went all in and quickly realized on like day 2 that I was so far in over my head. I had no idea about websites. I had no idea about social media. I had no idea about the tech, which was strange because I thought I was tech savvy because I worked on a computer 8 hours a day, but it turns out I wasn't tech savvy in the right kind of way. And then what happened to my first business is I decided to start learning because I was terrified I was going to have to go get a job. So I knew I needed to make it work. And I had invested some money in a website and whatnot. So now you have kind of some money in the game. So I went and started taking courses on, how to have an online business. And that's when I really got overwhelmed because everybody teaching were younger millennials, which is absolutely fine, except there was this huge information gap. They came at teaching one way and I was like, where's the button? Like, where's the button? So I felt kind of left behind. And then I just got completely overwhelmed with all the moving parts of the business. And it really became a nightmare until I just kind of hit rock bottom and thought, this has to be easier. There has to be a simpler way.
What did the rock bottom look for you? Like when you say that?
My rock bottom for me was like when I was terrified to like open my own website. Like I knew how to get into the back end of it. And it's a WordPress site. I still have this business, by the way. It was a WordPress site. And I just remember going into the back end of that thinking, what? I'm like terrified to even be in my own business, like, which is crazy. So I knew that's where it kind of had to stop. So that was my rock bottom, was like, I need to figure this out and it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated.
So how did you shift from going from the complicated business to more of a simple business? Like what were the things that maybe the action steps or what did you have to let go of? What did you have to integrate? How did that look, that journey?
Yeah. I had to let go of, well, first of all, I had to let go of my kind of shiny object syndrome. I definitely got caught in that whole internet thing where you think you need the next course to learn the next thing, etc. So I had to let that go. And I really just had to sit down and say, what is it I need to do every day in this business to make it work? And for that magazine, it was, I needed stories. It's a hyper-local magazine. I needed stories. I needed advertisers. So I kind of went back to basics there. And then I really just honestly started treating it more like a business, which helped a lot. And that's where I just had to find the self-discipline that I'd always had in my corporate job, where I scheduled when I worked and I would schedule what I worked on. So I needed to learn more about the back end of my website. I did that. I worked with my web guy and learned more about that and, got that process in place. And I put processes in place. So like when I need to upload a story, here's exactly what I need to do. I need to optimize this photo. So I'd get a process in place. So it was really about coming back and treating it like a business versus kind of a willy-nilly, not knowing what I was going to do every day.
Right. I love how you spoke to just now, or related, treating it like a business with putting processes in place. Because I think that's a really key, I want to say, growth element of a business is being able to have all that. So, So what were maybe some of the things you learned along the way on the journey to create, to just shifting and putting those processes in place, or behaving like a business on a personal level or on a business level?
Yeah. First of all, was actually just taking the time to put the processes in place for the magazine. And I've brought that forward into the Scrappy Frontier, which I just kind of call entrepreneurship school for women over 50. But it was, I think there's a myth that, you can work from the beach and your own job, but the flexibility and freedom only come after your business is established and in place. And to get it established and in place, you have to have processes and a plan in place, which is super boring. It's not the sexy stuff that people think about when they have their own business. But the fact of the matter is, if you're not treating it like a business, working on the things you really need to work on every day, or when you can, you're never going to get to that point of flexibility. And one thing I teach, because, my audience, women over 50, a lot of them are in these transition parts of life where they're looking for more flexibility and freedom. I'm like, that is absolutely fine. You can create the business you want. If you only want to work part-time, if you want to work seasonally, whatever it is, but you have to know that up front and then create that business, and you have to structure your time accordingly. It's not like you can just wake up every day and say, oh, it's so sunny out, I'm going to go hang out in the garden today, when you need to get stuff done. You need to set your boundaries, and you need to make those boundaries kind of non-negotiable in your business. Not sexy, not exciting. It's just kind of the boring planning stuff and doing the work, but that's how you simplify it.
Right. I absolutely love that. That is amazing. So what is your business? So compared to that overwhelming state, when you had your business in an overwhelming state in terms of, and then compared to how you have it in a simple state now, how does your life look differently? Like, how's that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's so different. It's so much less stressful. So I still get to do all the things that I enjoy. I get up early in the morning. I live down in Florida, and I go kayaking in the morning, or I play tennis, but I make sure that I'm at, my desk by 9:30 every day to do my work. I have an actual plan of what I'm working on, and it's written in my calendar. I'm still a pen and paper girl, so it's written in my calendar, and I know what I'm working towards, and I have a plan working towards that. And that's what I teach, my audience to do as well. If you don't have a written plan, you're never going to get there.
Right.
So when I wake up in the morning, I know what I need to be doing today. And I know what I need to be doing tomorrow, because I know there's a deadline out there that I'm going to have to reach. So that I'm all about kind of planning and scheduling, and but I need the structure. Personally, for me, structure is very good. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think structure brings freedom, right? Because I could plan out a big project, and it could seem very overwhelming just to think of the end goal. But once I chunk it out, and this is for me personally, but once I chunk it out into a calendar and just say, okay, this is what I'm doing on this day, on the next day, and the next day, and the next day, I don't even have to think about it, because it's written down, and it's a plan. And so, and some people might get overwhelmed by putting such structure in place. They think that it's holding them back or keeping them down, especially if you're looking for that flexibility and freedom type business. But it really is a lesson learned that, that having a plan and a clear plan, and one that serves the life that you want, is really essential if you want to have the life that you want with your business.
Absolutely. I mean, so for example, if you want summers off to spend with your child or whatever it is, if you don't make sure everything gets done, before May or whatever it is, you're not going to have that time off with your child. So you just need to plan ahead and work backwards. And like you said, that's what is going to give you the freedom, is having that structure in place now. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you did not make the decision, if the light bulb didn't go off in your head to say, oh my gosh, this is an overwhelming nightmare, something has to change, where would your life be now? Because you started this, just to give background, you started that original business about 4 years ago, and you've since shifted.
Then I launched the Scrappy Frontier about 2 years into that. So just about a year ago. Well, actually a year and a month ago, actually, when friends just started asking me, oh, how did you do your own business kind of thing? Where would I be had I not had that switch not flipped? I think I would have been back in like a regular job, and I probably would have gone back, with my tail between my legs kind of thing, because it was something that when I kind of broke free of the corporate world, I was like very free, and I bragged about it, like, hey, I'm having my own business now. and so it was a matter of pride and not wanting to go back to that regular job, because I was really kind of done answering to somebody else. And I definitely wanted to get to that point of freedom and have the creative freedom and the financial freedom to do what I wanted. So once I hit that overwhelm, I'm very, I'm very goal driven. And so once I hit that overwhelm, as soon as I sat back and like simplified and got my goals, I was on track and ready to move forward and make it work.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So one question I like to ask people is, what do other people think of you now compared, like, of the Colleen now versus like the Colleen before? Like, what, I don't know, for your friends and family, do they notice things? Do they say things?
Totally. Well, first of all, my mom thinks I'm a little crazy, but then on the other hand, she has her own website and her own business, and she's asking me how to do things, which is funny. So yeah, she was a woman ahead of her time for sure. But my friends and family are like, they can't believe I'm doing this, if that makes sense. Like, how did you ever find like the nerve to do this? They think that it's like something that's so brave or out of the ordinary. And I'm like, it's not. You just have to jump in feet first. So I think they see that energy, they see that shift in me. I think they don't all understand it, but they definitely think it's cool, and they don't understand how like I did it. And I'm like, it's not that extraordinary. Anybody can do it if you like put your mind to it.
Right.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
That's incredible. I love that, because I've gotten similar reactions. So, yeah, I love your story so much. So just to kind of close out here, what are some takeaways that you would like women, either even your own audience, the 50 and above, that are contemplating or moving into the idea of creating a simple business and a life they love, or any kind of demographic anyways, but what are some kind of key messages you would like to offer?
I would say, first of all, when you're coming up with your idea, which is harder than it seems, your business idea, make sure to think outside of the obvious. Don't just reflect on actual skills you have because of a school or certification or a job that you've had. Think outside of the box in terms of interest. Think back long time ago if there were things you used to love to do that you haven't done in a long time. I mean, I've had crazy stories of women who thought they were going to start this kind of business, and then we start talking. Like, I just had a woman the other day that said, you know what? I know a lot about breeding show rabbits. I'm like, what? And she's like, I did it for a decade. I'm like, there's your business right there. She's like, I loved it. And I'm like, she's like, but that was just for a hobby. I'm like, there's your business right there. So think outside of the box. It's not just about like, that you worked in this kind of job, so you need to continue doing that. I think outside of the box. Make sure your idea is something you want to do long term. and that you'll love long-term and that you're going to want to talk about every day. And keep it simple. There's a propensity now to think when you start a business that it has to be like 24/7 hustle and all this crazy stuff. And I've got to have a website and it's going to cost me so much money. And that, stop. You know, I call that the cart before the horse syndrome. Like, you don't need a website till you know exactly what you're doing, what your business idea is. You don't need a logo or a business name until you know what your business is. You know, start simply. Start with the brainstorming. Start with the idea. You can start as simply as just having a Facebook business page to test the waters, but don't get ahead of yourself. So really test your idea. Talk to real customers, not your best friend or your husband or family, because they're not real customers, and just start formulating your idea. But don't get too crazy. Like, don't get so worked up about some of the other stuff that's going to come in the future. So that would be my biggest suggestion. Find something you love, look outside of the obvious, make sure you're going to love it long term, and just start at the beginning and don't worry about every single piece that has to come, because those pieces will fall into place.
That is excellent advice. Thank you so much.
Right, well,
yeah, well, thank you so much. So again, this is Colleen Kochannek of the Scrappy Frontier. Where you can find her at thescrappyfrontier.com. So Colleen, I really want to thank you for being with us here today, and the best of luck in your business.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.